порядке.
Що ти бачиш?
Amid the relentless fighting on Ukraine's eastern front, a fascinating story has emerged on social media, detailing a precision operation by the elite sniper unit of the 12th Azov Special Brigade. Now, while this account remains unverified by independent sources or major media outlets, it's worth examining because it perfectly captures the operational style that Ukrainian sniper units, especially those from Azov, have become renowned for. According to the circulating narrative, a team of Azov snipers reportedly set up a devastating ambush against a small Russian convoy traveling on motorcycles, methodically eliminating them one by one from long range. Here's what makes this story particularly compelling. The Azov team allegedly spent hours in concealment, meticulously studying enemy movement patterns in a narrow lane frequently used by Russian forces for rapid mobility operations. Let's talk about these motorcycles for a moment. They've become increasingly common in Russian tactical doctrine. Why? Because they offer significant mobility advantages in open terrain and can evade drone surveillance more effectively than larger vehicles. But here's the critical vulnerability. They provide virtually zero protection against long-range precision fire. It's a calculated risk that sometimes doesn't pay off. The alleged operation unfolded with textbook precision. The snipers had mapped the area extensively, accounting for wind direction, potential entry points, and firing zones. When the motorcycle convoy entered their kill zone, the engagement reportedly began, not with bursts of fire, but with single calculated shots that found their targets one by one. This is the hallmark of professional sniper work: patience, precision, and devastating effectiveness. Now, whether this specific incident occurred exactly as described, was embellished, or is purely battlefield rumor, it highlights something very real: the evolving dynamics of modern warfare. This isn't just fought in trenches or via drones anymore. It's also waged in the information space, where every story, verified or not, becomes part of the narrative that shapes perceptions and morale. What we can say with certainty is this: Ukraine has invested heavily in trained sniper units, and Russian forces using unprotected vehicles in areas already mapped by enemy scouts face serious vulnerabilities. The silence of a single sniper can literally halt an entire enemy advance. That's the power of precision over mass. Now let's shift to an absolutely dramatic engagement that unfolded at Novopavlivka, where nature itself became a tactical weapon. The Russians made a daring and calculated move, exploiting dense fog to cross a critical obstacle and deploy troops into the village, catching Ukrainian defenders off guard. But here's where it gets interesting. The Ukrainians demonstrated remarkable adaptability, rapidly engaging the infiltrators and even turning that same fog to their advantage, ultimately capturing an intact Russian armored vehicle as a prize. The Russian assault kicked off under the cover of extremely thick fog that effectively blinded both sides' drone operations, a rare tactical window. Seizing this opportunity, Russian forces rapidly constructed a pontoon crossing between Yalta and Dakhny, transporting approximately 10 armored vehicles across the river. The fog was so dense that Ukrainian surveillance systems detected the maneuver far too late to prevent the initial crossing, allowing Russian troops to disperse throughout the central and southern sections of Novopavlivka. Almost immediately, Russian military analysts began celebrating the operation with wildly exaggerated claims, absurdly stating that the same vehicles not only completed a successful two-way trip without losses, but immediately picked up additional troops and made a second round trip completely undetected. Let's be clear, that's propaganda, not reality. Here's why Novopavlivka matters so much strategically. If Russia captures this settlement, their forces could push northward toward Majova from the south, severely compromising Ukraine's defensive flank west of the crucial Pokrovsk direction. This area has very few settlements suitable for establishing strong defensive lines, which means any Russian advance north of Novopavlivka could potentially unfold with alarming speed. That's precisely why this fog-assisted breakthrough initially caused such concern. But the actual outcome tells a very different story from the Russian propaganda. In reality, the Russians managed only a single crossing, and even that came with significant casualties. While the fog severely limited drone visibility, Ukrainian operators still managed to detect and strike Russian equipment. Geolocated footage confirms Russian tanks and armored vehicles being immobilized before the fog fully lifted, then systematically destroyed once visibility improved. Even so, Russia did succeed in landing a limited number of troops who immediately scattered across houses, small shelters, and farm structures throughout the village. Ukrainian infantry responded with impressive speed, launching immediate clearing operations, working methodically building by building and street by street to root out the infiltrators. This is brutal, close quarters combat at its finest. Shortly after, Ukrainian forces released compelling geolocated video evidence from inside Nova Pavlivka, showing the systematic elimination of Russian equipment that had managed to slip into the village during the fog. One armored vehicle and several Russian soldiers, who were initially fortunate enough to evade immediate detection, were ultimately spotted and destroyed by precision drone-dropped grenades. Let's cut through the competing narratives with facts. While Russian sources boldly claimed that over 100 soldiers infiltrated the settlement, supposedly proving their phantom second crossing occurred, Ukrainian officers on the ground estimated that no more than 50 actually made it inside. And here's a remarkable detail. Ukrainian soldiers captured 2 Russian troops from a destroyed BMP-2 and even managed to seize a fully operational BMP-1 as a battlefield trophy, cleverly using the fog as cover to their advantage this time. From these documented engagements alone, 15 Russian soldiers were confirmed killed, while additional footage indicates that at least 25 out of the approximately 50 infiltrators have been eliminated or captured. Do the math. In reality, the Russians made only 1 trip with devastating 50% losses, not the claimed 2 trips with 0 losses. That's a catastrophic casualty rate by any military standard. Ukrainian drone operators continued their relentless hunt for remaining infiltrators, successfully destroying 7 more Russian soldiers who were hiding among the houses scattered throughout Nova Pavlivka. Meanwhile, west of the village at a nearby farm complex, Russian troops attempted to establish a defensive foothold. Bad decision. They were quickly spotted by Ukrainian drones, and once operators struck them from the air with FPV drones, 2 Ukrainian Marines aggressively moved in and cleared the entire site. This perfectly illustrates how modern battles actually unfold. Tiny assault teams determining the fate of several square kilometers of territory, with drones guiding literally every tactical move. To prevent the Russians from exploiting fog conditions again, Ukrainian forces also struck decisively at the rear, where fresh enemy troops were gathering. A Ukrainian F-16 fighter jet carried out a precision bombing mission against Russian concentration points in the village of Filia, destroying several buildings packed with soldiers inside. Talk about projecting power. Simultaneously, Russian reinforcements attempting to cross the Volcha River near Yalta became hopelessly stuck in heavy, treacherous mud. What could have been a breakthrough instead devolved into a disastrous traffic jam of 4 armored vehicles, all of which were systematically destroyed by Ukrainian FPV and Vampire drones just moments later. When terrain becomes your enemy, alongside actual enemy forces, you're having a very bad day. Overall, despite the genuine surprise of the initial fog-assisted crossing, Ukrainian defenders demonstrated extraordinary resilience and tactical adaptability under pressure. The battle for Novopavlivka is absolutely far from over. Russian troops remain scattered inside the settlement, hiding in buildings and desperately trying to establish defensive positions. Yet the Ukrainian response has decisively blunted the momentum of the Russian attack and successfully prevented any reinforcement waves from reaching the infiltrators. Because Novopavlivka's location is so strategically critical, both sides fully understand what's at stake here, and more intense clashes will inevitably follow in the coming days. Ukrainian forces remain on maximum alert, absolutely, determined to ensure that no additional Russian units cross that river unseen, regardless of how thick the fog becomes. This is modern warfare at its most dynamic, where weather, technology, and human courage collide to determine tactical outcomes that ripple across entire operational theaters.